Hello everyone, welcome back for another week of high school football talk here at lanksports.com and the LL League Insider. I am lanksports.com online sports editor Keith Schweigert. Alongside me, our answer to John Madden, Jeff Reinhart. And Jeff, it seems like only yesterday we're worrying about training camps and things like that. Now here we are halfway through the season, or coming up on the halfway point, week 5. The section races have gotten underway, and we're officially into the interesting point of the season as these section races get going, and pretty soon we're going to have to be looking ahead to the district playoffs already. It's hard to believe.
Won't be long.
So let's get right into it here, Jeff. We have two spotlight games this week. The first is the one that you're going to be blogging live from this week. That is the Section 2 battle between undefeated Lebanon, the Tall Cedars, and that air raid offense of theirs, going up against Garden Spot, a kind of surprising 3-1 team at this point. Both of those teams got off to a good start in section play last week. They're both 1-0 in the section. What can you tell me about this game?
An interesting game, contrasting styles kind of a game. I was at Lebanon this week, got to chat with them, catch up with them, see what's going on with this air raid, which is a lot of fun. I did get to see it last year, but this year they're just doing so much better with it. I mean, they were 2-8 last year, but everybody there has grasped this air raid attack now. Quick passes. James Capello has been amazing, leads the league in passing, 888 yards passing and 12 touchdowns through 4 weeks. He is the player of the week this week, by the way. They've also gotten it done on the ground. It's not just air raid. Capello was rushed for almost 600 yards himself. Lebanon has over 900 yards rushing, and they have the top-ranked offense in the league, averaging about 455 yards a game. So they are moving the ball up and down, no doubt about that, and coming off a good win over Ephrata. They scored 42 points all in the first half. So
wow.
Their first-team offense has been really, really good. Also want to mention Chris Seltzer, their running back, sort of a fullback type. He's up around 300 yards rushing, and he's been a huge help. They're not just winging the ball 8 out of 10 times. They are moving the ball on the ground, and that air raid attack when they go up top has been awesome. Jordan Clentamack, all-state wideout last year, 22 catches already, leads the league. 6 touchdown catches, leads the league. So a lot of weapons at Lebanon. Garden Spot, feisty, scrappy kind of a team, trench kind of a team, prefer kind of a smash mouth game, quite frankly. 3 new offensive linemen. I got to talk to Coach Zamperini this week. He's really impressed. They're breaking in 3 new kids on the line that have never played varsity, and those guys are playing great. Keep an eye on Joe Strangarity, the linebacker. I think he will be under the spotlight this week to definitely make plays in the middle at linebacker. Joe went over 300 career tackles last week, so congrats to him. Garden Spot will definitely need a big performance from Anderson Beamer, their tailback. Got to chew up some clock, get some first downs, and just keep the ball away from Lebanon. Play keep away, because Lebanon can score, and they can score in a hurry. So I like this matchup a lot. It's interesting. Great start for Garden Spot. I don't know how many people saw this coming with the 3-1 and played well in the loss to Hempfield. So if Garden Spot can play keep away, maybe they have a chance here. But I like Lebanon's offense. I like the way Capello's going. They are just moving the ball up and down unbelievably. So go Lebanon in a good one.
Yeah, Jeff, this is going to be an interesting game, I think, because we're going to find out a lot about both teams. I mean, neither team has really played a really solid non-league schedule. I mean, Lebanon's wins are impressive, but they're coming against teams that, you know, aren't exactly the kingpins of the LL League or the district. And Garden Spot, sort of the same thing. I mean, the one good team they played with, or the one really good team they played, was probably Hempfield, and they did end up losing that game. And the thing that struck me about that, I was at that game, they had a lot of trouble containing Hempfield's offense with Jarvis Cummings, the quarterback, and Manny Mendez, the wide receiver. Cummings and Mendez pretty much ran wild on them, which kind of bodes badly for their defense if they had trouble with a Hempfield team throwing the ball. Lebanon throws the ball a little bit more, so I think that secondary is going to be tested. I'm going to lean toward the Cedars as well. I think they're going to improve to 5-0 and continue that good early run. So we'll see what happens.
Keep an eye on the weather too. I heard it might be a rainy night, so I don't know if that will hinder Lebanon at all throwing the ball around. But Lebanon can run the ball better this year, so keep an eye on that.
Okay, well, we'll see. The second spotlight game is the one I'm going to be blogging live from, and that is the Section 1 battle, neighborhood rivalry here between Manheim Township and Warwick. Township off to a 2-2 start, kind of struggling a little back and forth as they've gone on here. They did win their first Section 1 game last week against Reading. Struggled a little bit in that, but did come out with the victory. Warwick is off to a 3-1 start behind their really good running back, John Resch.
Eric Resch.
Eric Resch, I'm sorry. John was the quarterback, big brother last year. That's correct. So we have a neighborhood rivalry going on here. Jeff, give me your thoughts on this one.
A good backyard game, like you mentioned. I scratched my head a bit over Township. I know they got the Razorback going, but they really haven't started cranking yet. As mentioned with Reading last week, only scored 16 points. Keep an eye on Dan Wirtz, who's been taking most of the snaps. I saw them 2 weeks ago over at E-Town, and he took a lot of the direct snaps. I know John Yuko, who is the quarterback in Razorback, didn't attempt to pass last week. So Wirtz has been taking a lot of the snaps. He's over 400 yards rushing, and my fun stat, Wirtz is I want to say 4 for 6 passing for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. So Wirtz is making all the plays. He's been the playmaker that everybody thought he would be and helped getting it done for the Blue Streaks. Warwick, 5 new offensive linemen. Those guys must be gelling, and they must be opening some holes for Eric Resch because he's been, as advertised, leads the league in carries, 98. So he's durable. Leads the league in yards, I believe, 656 through 4 games, which is a good number. And he leads the league in rushing touchdowns with 10. So he has been the man. Everybody knew he was going to be the guy coming in, and he would be the focus. And I'm sure he's seen a lot of funky defenses, but he's making it work. He leads the league in rushing and rushing touchdowns. So that'll definitely be Township's focus. Curtail Resch best as you can. Yeah, I like this game. It's at Warwick. I like the way they're going. They're averaging over 350 yards a game, so they're moving the ball. Township's defense has been tough, though. They're giving up less than 200 a game, somewhere around 195. So another contrasting style kind of a game. I'll lean Warwick. I think Randy Yost at quarterback has been efficient, has not turned the ball over much. And he can't this week because Township, another interesting stat, Township leads the league in turnover ratio. They're a plus 12.
Wow.
So that's why they have the 2 wins and why they won last week. They're a plus 12 in turnovers, which is a really cool number. So that's how Township's getting it done. They've been opportunistic and kind of just doing enough to, get a couple of wins. I'll go Warwick. I like him at home. I like Yost being efficient, and I really like Eric Resch. I've been saying it for 4 or 5 weeks, and I'll say it again.
Yeah, I'm going to lean toward Warwick in this one as well. I think one of the things they'll probably be remembering from last year is at this point last year, both teams were off to good starts. They played Township. Township smoked them. I believe that was the debut of the Razorback, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. I remember Dan Wirtz had a big game. I was at that one, so I'm sure that's going to be on Warwick's mind as they go here. Now the tables have kind of turned. Last year, that was Township's statement game that really propelled them to the front of the pack in Section 1, and they stayed there for the rest of the season. Maybe Warwick's going to try to do the same thing here. They're 3-1. They get a big win here that really kind of gives them some momentum going into the rest of their schedule. I think they're just going to ride Resch's shoulders for another victory here. I'm leaning toward the Warriors. So let's look at the rest of Section 1 now, and if there's been one big surprise team this year, it has to be Penn Manor. And last week, speaking of statement games, they go in a battle of undefeateds, and they really took it to Hempfield. They just absolutely dominated the Knights on both sides of the ball. They got 5 turnovers in that game, which obviously is going to help. And here's Penn Manor. Who would have thunk it? 4-0 going into the halfway point of the season. Penn Manor is going to be up against Reading, and that's a team that's struggling. So there's a pretty good chance that the Comets are going to be 5-0 after this one.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on Penn Manor and this incredible start they've gotten off to?
Wow. They're still getting it done defensively. Recovered 5 fumbles last week against Hempfield. Just to turn that offense over that many times is just an unbelievable number. They're legit. I mean, that's legit. I mean, I looked at the first 3 weeks and thought, okay, non-league, we'll see. We'll see what's going on. And to do what they did to Hempfield at Hempfield, held them to about 200 yards, which is about 150 below their average. Turned them over 5 times. Penn Manor's getting it done defensively, which I really like. They did slip from the top of the rankings down to number 3 this week. I think they're averaging about 170 yards a game. They're only giving up, but the turnover number is definitely cool. I think P.J. Ream, the quarterback, had a huge coming out party last week. What a big big game for him.
He was very impressive.
Yeah, 19 for 28, over almost 200 yards passing, couple touchdowns. They're legit. I mean, they're on the map here for me. And here's another shot for them. It's Reading. It's a game that they should win, quote unquote, on paper. They got to stay focused. It's so cliche, but game at a time, week at a time. But if Penn Manor can do that, another win or two, they're going to districts.
Sure.
And they got a great shot in the section here. I mean, they know Wilson's out there. They know what they're doing. Township or Warwick's going to get a loss this week. So Penn Manor plays its cards right, stays focused, week at a time, game at a time. Holy moly, they could be there in the end. So really like what Penn Manor's doing, and I'll take them over Reading. I think they win that game. They're at home. I think they have some serious momentum going. I think they stay focused. I like the way Ream is going, running the offense, and their defense has been nasty. So I'll take Penn Manor to go 5-0.
Yeah, I'm going to go Penn Manor as well. The interesting thing about their schedule is as you look at it, and these last couple of weeks of the season, all of their big games are basically 3 weeks right in a row. I can't remember the order, but I know it's Wilson last, and then I think they have Township and Warwick, kind of bang, 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 leading right up to that game. So there are some winnable games in here for them. I mean, Reading's struggling. I'm leaning toward Penn Manor in this one as well, but you got a McCaskey out there yet that's struggling. You got a Cedar Crest that's out there struggling. So if they can win the games that they should win, you're looking at 7 wins right there. That's definitely enough to get you into districts and probably a pretty good seed in it.
So a home game, sure.
So yeah, it's hard to believe, but here comes Penn Manor out of nowhere. If they can keep things going here, they're a playoff team.
Absolutely.
So we'll see. We'll see how they do this week and leading on down the way. But Penn Manor is legit. That was an impressive victory for them last week. I was there blogging live from it, and it was a big statement for them. They really took control of that game from the outset, and they dominated.
Big time. I tip my cap to them. Fabulous start for Coach Mealy in the Comets. Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. So let's move on to the team that Penn Manor beat last week, and that was Hempfield. They were coming into that game feeling pretty good about themselves. Now they kind of got smacked in the face with their first loss of the season. The Knights 3-1. They're going up against a team that we mentioned before has been struggling this year in McCaskey. A definite rebound game for them. How do you think they're going to pull it together here?
I think Hempfield snaps back. They're going home, and they're going up a team that's just flat struggling. McCaskey has given up the most points in the league, and they've scored the least amount of points in the league. I think that's all you need to know about how McCaskey's going right now. Not fun. Tornado, and they're just not having. It's just not a good year. Things are not going well. They've had injuries, and it's just not a lot of fun. I think Hempfield snaps back. I think Coach Forgrave has their attention. I think last week was definitely a wake-up call. I don't want to say they got ahead of themselves, but when you're 3-0 and you're cruising and you're feeling good, sometimes you need a smack in the face and just, okay, let's settle down.
Let's face it, up until this point, up until this season, Penn Manor's a pretty easy team to overlook too.
Sure.
So,
Oh, absolutely. Sure, yeah. No, but I think Hempfield snaps back. I think they'll get back to where they need to go. I think they'll go back to the basics. I think sticking in the option with Cummings and let him do his thing, do some play action, and try to get the ball downfield to Mendez. Don't look ahead, Hempfield. Don't just say, okay, well, it's McCaskey in their own form. We're going to smoke them and move on. Get focused. Get back to where you need to be. A couple more wins. That's a district team. And right now they're only a game out, and they still have Wilson out there to play. I think Hempfield snaps back. I'll take the Knights here.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going Hempfield as well. Now the final game in the Section 1 slate is, of course, Wilson, who is undefeated, 4-0, 1-0 in the section. They're going up against Cedar Crest, a team that's kind of been hit or miss this year. They're 1-3. They also lost last week, so they're 0-1 in section play. So your thoughts on the Bulldogs and where they go from here?
I think they'll be okay. Right. I mean, their defense is just wonderful. I mean, third best defense in the league right now. They've given up the least amount of rushing yards in the league, which is a great number. I think they've only given up about 240 rushing yards, which is, pretty great. Cedar Crest has been okay. I mean, you look at the record and you say 1-3, but they're moving the ball. They've been in games, and they gave Warwick a battle there last week in the section opener. So not a pushover game. They have to go to Cedar Crest to play here, Wilson. So Steve Huber's back, the quarterback for Wilson, the senior. Hurt his knee back in the scrimmages, but he came back last week and got some time in the section opener. So he's back. So now they have sort of two quarterbacks. We'll see what they do with Huber here. But I think Wilson marches on here. I think they beat Crest, they stay focused, they move on, and who's next? Bulldogs.
I'm going Bulldogs too. And to answer your question, who's next? We'll go to Section 2. Mannheim Central, the perennial favorite, they're kind of evened their ship a little bit last week with that impressive win over Cocalico. They're 2-2, going up against another 2-2 team and the defending section co-champ in Solanco. This one's going to be at Mannheim, so another possible monsoon game in Mannheim, like the Lancaster Catholic game was. But what do you think of the Barons and how they snapped back last week and where they go from here?
Very impressive. I think Mannheim Central has everyone's attention again. I think Wilson and Catholic games, okay, losses, tough losses to good programs, but still losses. Boy, did they snap back. Yeah. Losing 14-0 to Cocalico in the first quarter last week, coming off 2 losses in a row. They could have panicked. I mean, they could have absolutely hit the panic button on the spot midway through the first quarter last week. Mike Williams made a quarterback change, brought Jeremy Nosp in. He sat him down last week, started Justin Gorman. Sort of a wake-up call for Jeremy. Stuck him in there in the second quarter, and bang, 19 for 31 for 320 yards and 5 touchdowns later.
That's a response.
Yeah, yes. Hello. Message received, coach. I'm ready to play. He read his reads wonderfully and just threw a ton of great passes, and 56 points for Central. So I think the Barons definitely have everybody's attention again. I think everybody forgot about Catholic and Wilson. Those are gone. I saw Solanco Saturday night, and they played really well against E-Town. Losing 13-0 at the half. They came out in the second half, scored, got back in the game. Defense tightened up. They only gave up 11 rushing yards to E-Town in the second half. Had a drive late and couldn't punch it in, but played really good against E-Town. I think Central's got this game circled because I think everybody remembers what happened last year.
Yes.
28-7, Solanco snapped a, I don't even know how many year losing streak. 96-0 was under the carpet. That's gone. Central's got this one circled for sure somewhere. I think the Barons want a little revenge. I like the way their spread's going. Mike Williams loves the way they played against Cocalico with more spread plays, and Nosp making some plays on the corner. I like Central here at home, rain or no rain, or turf or no turf. I think the Barons go to 2-0 in the section.
Yeah, I think the Mannheim Central revenge tour through Section 2 begins with this one. I think they beat Solanco as well. Elizabethtown is up next on the docket. They're going up against Conestoga Valley. E-Town 3-1 and 1-0 in the section. Conestoga Valley struggling again this season. On paper, looks like a pretty easy win for E-Town. Is that your assessment?
I think the Bears snap back. Their offense was held to 2 field goals last week. Mitch Weidman returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown, and then they only got 2 field goals. That's it. So E-Town definitely looking to snap back, establish that running game, get Rosenberry and Heisey going, and look for McNeil to be a little more efficient. He didn't have a great night passing against Solanco, but enough to get it done and win. Bears here. They go to 2-0.
I'm going Bears as well. And finally, our last game in Section 2, Cocalico, who suffered their first loss of the season last week against Mannheim. They're going up against another 0-4 team in Ephrata, and this looks like a snapback game for the Eagles as well.
Should be, if they're focused, for sure. Ephrata's playing better. I know they're 0-4, and the numbers aren't so great. But they scored 20 second half points last week against Lebanon. They're moving the ball through the air. Lance Kopp has been really good. Keep an eye on him, the lefty quarterback at Ephrata. I think Cocalico snaps back here. They're just too many weapons. Lead the league in rushing, over 1,400 yards rushing. Hartman and Fisher. Don't forget Fisher returned the 2 kickoffs for touchdowns last week against Central. Nice 90 yards and 96 yards in the fourth quarter. Coach Williams didn't like that very much. But no, I think Cocalico gets back to business here and gets back in this race.
Yeah, I think the Eagles have too many weapons here. I think it's going to be a pretty easy win for them. Okay, we move on to Section 3 now, where really there are only 2 teams above 500 to talk about. One of those, of course, Lancaster Catholic, the preseason favorite. They're going up against one of the more surprising teams in a bad way in Lampeter Strasburg. The Pioneers are struggling. I know they did pick up their first win last week against Columbia, and they look better doing it. But now, to celebrate that, they get to go up against the section favorite in Catholic.
Thanks.
So break this one down for us. Where you think we are with Catholic and LS?
It's funny because I mentioned to you before we sat down. Any other year, this is a gigantic game.
Right.
Catholic LS. This is getting the headlines, and this is like the number 1 game of the week. I think it lost a little luster this year with LS going 0-3. Nice to see LS snap back, finally get a win last week. They rock and rolled Columbia, 41-0. I think Columbia had about 50 total yards of offense. So LS found its defense finally and got on the board. More importantly, they had been shut out back-to-back weeks. So It looks like LS is coming back a little bit. Maybe they're starting to find themselves and do some things. But Catholic's picking up speed, had the big win over Central, 35 points last week against Donegal. Kyle Smith is really starting to throw the ball at a good percentage. I think he was 13 for 16 last week for around 300 yards.
Yeah.
So they're moving the ball through the air. Purvis and Travis Jankowski's back for Catholic. I know he was dinged up early in the season. Nice comeback for him. 5 catches for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. So Travis is back.
Yeah, he's back.
He's back. So look out for Catholic. Their offense is looking to do some things. I think they have all their weapons now. They have their full arsenal. Catholic, #1 defense in the league, 162 yards a game. So they've definitely tightened up there, no doubt about it. They got to go on the road, but I like Catholic here. I think LS is still a little young in some spots. Del Rossini appears to be back at quarterback with the freshman Nate Shank coming off the bench again. But I still like Catholic here. They're going to win the section. I think they get through. Crusaders.
Yeah, it's a dangerous game for Catholic because, as you mentioned, this is in the past has been a good rivalry game.
Yeah.
I just think they have too much for the Pioneers to handle at this point. So yeah, I'm going Catholic in a pretty lopsided win, I would think.
Okay.
The other undefeated team in the section is Northern Lebanon. They're off to a 4-0 start. Of course, picked up their first section win of the year last week, and they're going up against Anvil-Cleona, a team that's right at the 500 mark. They've been kind of back and forth. This is a Lebanon County duel, so your thoughts on this one?
Northern Lebanon 4-0 for the second year in a row,
Yep.
6-0 last year. Squeaker last week. Needed a late field goal from Terry Clark to beat Elko 24-21. Less than 40 seconds left in the game. Got that one through. So Northern Lebanon finally had a tester last week. They finally had okay, let's see if we're legit. 3-0, survived, beat a good backyard rival by 3 at the gun. So it's a good tester for Northern Lebanon. They needed that just to sort of see where they stood. Second ranked rushing offense in the league. They rushed for 1,000 yards. Matt Nolan, great dual threat. He's the top-ranked quarterback in the league. 14 for 18 completions this year, 4 touchdowns. So
he doesn't throw much, but when he does, he's effective.
When he does, it's right on. And second-ranked rushing offense in the league. That's how Northern Lebanon's getting it done. I like Anvil. They're pesky. And I know they played Peckway last week, and Peckway's just had 1.5 million injuries. But I saw Anvil a couple weeks ago against Cocalico. They're very pesky. Dean May can make plays out of the backfield. Nate Myers is a really good scrambler, quarterback. And they're feeling pretty good, and they're at home, and they're 2-2, and they're 1-0, and they're feeling good coming off a win. But I think Northern Lebanon finds a way. I think that they feel like they're sort of chiseled now. They've taken a shot and won a game. I know they got to go on the road, but I like the Vikings. I think they'll go to 5-0 for the second year in a row.
Yeah, I'm going Northern Lebanon as well in this one. Moving on, we have Elko going up against Columbia. 2 teams that have really struggled here at the start. Columbia, surprisingly so.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the Crimson Tide in this one, and who's going to come out on top here?
Okay. Well, Columbia had the great week 2 weeks ago against Daniel Boone, 48 points in the win, and Dakota Lightfoot 300 yards. Last week against LS, not good. About 50 yards of total offense. I think 4 first downs. That's it against LS. So Columbia took another step back after losing their first 2 out of the chute. So
you're liking Elko here?
I'm liking Elko here. They took Northern Lebanon to the wire. I really like Aronaki, the dual threat quarterback. Stat of the week: Elko's the only team in the league with 3 kids with more than 200 yards rushing. So they have some good balance there. I like that. I like Elko's balance. I think they go to the hill and they knock off the Tide.
I just can't see Columbia being as bad as their record indicates at this point. So it's against my better judgment, but I'm going to take them over Elko here. I think, the game being at home, this is a program that just has too much pride. Last week was probably rock bottom of their season, although the first 2 weeks you could argue were also rock bottom. So, but I can see them snapping back here. I'm going to take Columbia in a mild upset to knock off Elko.
Cool.
And our last game on the docket this week, speaking of teams that are struggling, we have poor Pequea Valley, whose 2 stars are off the team due to injury. They already were struggling in spite of that, and it looks like it's going to be another long year for them. But Pequea's going up against Donegal, another team that's gotten off to a bit of a rocky start here. Who do you pick in this one? I guess.
Donegal was my sleeper team. If you think back to August. Asleep. They've been sleeping a little bit. They've been shut out twice. Lost to Catholic in the opener, so they definitely want to snap back. That's for sure. 2 kids to keep an eye on for Pequea. Let's give Pequea some love because they're struggling. Ben Myers, the quarterback, he stepped in for Mike Rice. Doing okay. He's only a sophomore, I think. And freshman wideout Chad Tyson. He's the heir apparent to Persh. He already has 21 catches, and he's a freshman playing varsity for the first time. So keep an eye on those 2 kids for Pequea Valley.
Having said that, Donegal. I think they give the ball to Kyle Whitmer, and they say, "Kyle, go get him. Let's get back to basics, and let's get back on track." So take the Tribe. Sure, I'm going to agree with that pick as well. So we're square on Donegal. So. Well, folks, that's everything for us this week in terms of previews. Again, we have a developing weather situation coming here on Friday. We might be seeing some more rain on Friday night. So if you don't feel like going out to the games, you want to stay in your cozy little living room with your laptop, you can still get all the updates from all the action from us. Again, Jeff's going to be vlogging live from the Lebanon Garden Spot game. I am going to be vlogging live from the Manheim Township Warwick game. We'll be on the air somewhere between, or we'll be on the net somewhere between 6 and 6:30 p.m. leading up to kickoff. And again, we'll be updating all of scores we get from games in progress, and you will find no faster place or no better source for your final scores on Friday nights. We have them up before anyone else in the county, so you can still get your full load of football action here at www.lanksports.com. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next week.